It's time to get started with Tidewater, Virginia, and our first stop takes us to the Chesapeake Square Mall on the west side of Hampton Roads. Let's step inside and see how the Chesapeake Square Mall is faring. Before we get started on the history, please note, the following was recorded around April, so don't focus too much on any Easter decorations you see around the mall. They aren't out of season. I am. Edward J. DeBartolo wanted to get into the Tidewater, Virginia market, and had eyed a property of forest and swamp on the west side of Chesapeake, Virginia. Built and opened in 1989, Eddie DeBartolo signed on Leggett, Hess's, Montgomery Ward, Sears, and J.C. Penney for the Chesapeake Square Mall. The mall would be acquired by a Simon Property Group early on as part of the DeBartolo-Simon merger, but they seemed to be committed to running the mall as it proved to have potential. Shopping centers even went up around the mall, two notable ones being the Chesapeake Center and the Crossroads at Chesapeake Square. Early on, the mall did have some anchor change-ups. Montgomery Ward folded in 2001, but was quickly replaced by Target. Belk would acquire Leggett, but seemed to be allergic to Tidewater, Virginia, pulling out quickly. The Leggett space was sold to Dillard's, who seemed happy to operate. Dillard's even expanded into the Hess's anchor pad when the chain folded as well, having brief turnover to profits before Dillard's would take over. Things were relatively quiet until 2009, when it was announced that Dillard's would be closing their locations at the Chesapeake Square Mall. The space in Leggett would be the first to close, followed by the space occupying the former Hess's. While this proved to be problematic for the mall, this was addressed by the opening of Burlington Coat Factory in 2010, and then the demolition of the Hess's to make way for a Cinemark Megatheater, which would open in 2011. Cinemark was present on the mall property for quite a while, but the old building was outdated and eventually demolished in favor of the new theater. Around 2014, Sears would close amid its path to destruction as Fast Eddie, surprise surprise, ran it and Kmart into the ground. This same year, Simon Property Group was unhappy with the direction the mall was going and would offload the property to Washington Prime. Ownership and management was then bumped over to Jones Lang LaSalle shortly after. As a side note, on the side of Sears and J.C. Penney would open a sixth department store. I have been unable to find any concrete notes on what exactly the store was originally, but I can take a guess that it was either a Thalheimer's or a Hecht's, as both were in the market during or shortly after the time of the mall's opening. A long story short, a Macy's would be found there after 2006, and in 2016, Macy's announced that Chesapeake Square Mall would be one of 40 stores closing across the nation. This was followed by the closing of Aeropostale, American Eagle, and Gymboree also in 2016. Also, as a side note, maybe it's just me, but does this food court look Rouse-ish to anyone else? More store closures were present over the next few years, including food tenants, most notably Chick-fil-A. But then, in 2018, the mall was passed over to Coda Rides Development. Coda Rides is best known for residential developments but has a hand in retail with ownership of a few shopping centers in the area. This year, just after I visited in April, representatives for Coderides announced a 10-year plan to move the mall towards a mixed-use development, as well as building up the surrounding area with more residential developments. Currently, the community waits anxiously as they wonder what will come of the mall. I personally hold hope that Coderides might follow through with their plan, as they do have a portfolio behind them. As part of some eyewitness testimonies that I remember fondly while looking up this mall, some patrons had spoken of a roach infestation that had occurred in one of the food court stalls. These were just eyewitness testimonies, so take it with a grain of salt. In addition, some YouTubers would muse about a strong smell of urine in part of the mall. Again, these are just eyewitness accounts, so take it lightly. As for me, I didn't see anything unusual to this place. Some of the trees did have a bit of a smell to them, but it wasn't that unpleasant. What do I think about the mall? For a DeBartolo original, it does look great as always. It seemed to take a path towards whitewashing, of which I am unsure if it was part of the design to begin with, or if Simon had a hand in keeping this place up to date. Simon has a habit of renovating malls that are doing well enough to warrant updating, but not well enough to overhaul the mall completely. If there were any renovations to this mall, I am fairly certain that they would have been very conservative and very basic. I know people are quick to jump on the bandwagon of, "Oh, it's a dead mall," or "This mall's dead. How have they not torn it down?" And while I would use this to share videos to dead mall groups, I personally don't think the mall is totally dead. Dying? Maybe. Struggling? Definitely. But not necessarily dead yet. It's clear the glory days are over, but it's time to move on and get a game plan for this place. Coderides has mused at the idea of entertainment venues for Chesapeake Square, so there might be some hope for this place. I could possibly see a Round 1 or a Dave & Buster's in this mall. Once again, we are just going to have to wait and see what might happen with this mall. One move I could see that might benefit and even future-proof this mall is a grocery store. While there are already a few in the area, finding one that hasn't already set up yet in the area, or maybe one that wants to expand, might be a good idea for this mall. While yes, we already have Target, most of their foodstuffs is just pantry-type dry goods and frozen foods. No dedicated section for groceries like raw goods. And once again, we are near the end of the video and getting ready to leave. I do hope you enjoyed this walkthrough of Chesapeake Square Mall. Have you any memories of this place? Share them in the comments below. Do like, and of course, share the video. With YouTube giving independents like me the boot, sharing is the most likely way we can get this stuff out there. In addition, you can find me at Minds and Ko-fi, linked in the description below. Stay tuned for the coming weeks and subscribe if you haven't already, as I got about 8 more malls in my Tidewater adventure to cover, from Virginia Center Commons to Newmarket Fair. Until next time, this is Doomie Grunt wishing you and the Chesapeake Square Mall farewell and good luck in the coming years.